All right. So this top one, I'm going to go over this again just to make sure I'm correct. This is like the pre-mixing. So you want to get the levels here so that you have enough sound coming in. So this business here, down there, you can mix it without a lot of static. So you're giving enough sound. So if one mic is particularly quiet, you can put the gain up a bit.
Yeah, so that's where you can balance out the variances in the levels coming out of the mics.
Of the mics, okay.
So if you get all these, so so how you figure that out is solo.
Okay.
If you go solo PFL, it'll show up here, and you can tell what the levels are. So say this guy, I'm gonna solo it. It's on. Hey, 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 hey. No, this one's still having problems.
No, that's
figure
problems.
that out.
Okay, sure.
But
let's do number 7.
Sure. 7 is, so 7 would be like this guy.
Sure.
Hey, hey, hey. Or not. Is it this guy? This guy? Is it this
7.
guy? Oh, it's on 8.
What's on 8? Oops.
Yeah. We'll switch that. So I can solo that. This is my level. So as I turn this up, that goes up higher and higher and higher. So you can kind of, in an ideal world, you'd be aiming kind of for the 0 mark.
Okay. The 0 mark.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it doesn't always happen that way. So this is actually going to be really loud, so we'll just turn that down. But if you kind of balance all those at the same level on here, then at least you have a good starting point.
Oh, I see. So all your channels want to be like at the same level, so it's easier to mix from this part.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So you know that turning this up like that is going to be the same as if I turn that up like that over there, the same, because everything coming in is the same.
Okay, and that solo PFL just kind of solos that one particular channel.
And you can see when something is being soloed, because that'll say rude solo. So somewhere there's a solo still turned on right here. So now it's off.
Okay.
So now this shows the level coming out of here.
Gotcha.
Like the overall level.
Overall level.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. All right, and then these guys here, the purples, were only if you wanted to send it to another, like a monitor, another like speaker somewhere else, and you can control the levels this way. If you have it as pre-fader, then this will not affect what's happening here. If you have it as post-fade, so off, so when it's up, right?
Yeah,
When it's
turned
up,
off.
then this will affect, so anything you're mixing will affect what's coming out of this particular monitor.
Yeah.
And the overall monitor volume is right on the very end there, those two on the end that sends it out, masters.
And then they plug into the aux send.
And they plug into the aux send.
Jacks, so
Perfect.
1, 2, 1, 2.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, the orange guys are the effects. We don't need to really worry about those right now because we're not really using them. These particular ones here on this side, they adjust the level of effects for this particular channel. And overall, the orange ones are the effects for the external.
Yeah, so this is so in 1 goes to here, which goes to
Effects.
the effects
Send.
send
at the
right
top.
here. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And
So
then
if you have an effects machine.
yeah, and then you have to return it as well. So you would return it to the
effects in somewhere?
stereo effects
Stereo
return.
effects return.
So that would be
Perfect.
that would be that guy right there,
And that's where is that? Sorry.
right here.
Okay. Awesome.
Effects 1 return.
Effects one return. Got it. So that's the volume for that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then so number 2 goes to the internal, and so this is the master. So like this is the master for 1. This is the master for 2.
Okay.
And then this is where you return it to the main mix. So it's 2 main mix. So that's kind of like this button here for effects 1.
So the
this
particular
is
effects
going.
we have in this on this board.
Yeah.
If we wanted to use these effects, we would use the white button, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this would be the volume of the effects. So if too much reverb, then turn it down.
Turn it down,
Not
got
enough
it.
or whatever. That's where you turn it up.
What are the 2 buttons below the effects switch that turns it from those 2 on? Yeah.
Wide, I think. Just wide affects how it sounds a little bit. I think it just makes it more of a stereo spread than not. I'm not 100% sure what wide is, but I think it just would have changed the sound a little bit to make it sound wider, more space.
fatter.
Yeah. Bypass would just turn it off.
Okay.
So if you bypass it, then there won't be any effects.
Effects at all. Okay.
So basically,
And
it's
right
kind
now
of like a mute button for the
All right.
effects.
So if you want no effects, turn it off. Effects on. Just Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. But right now we're set at 0, so it's all good.
Yeah.
Okay. And these, so now the blue and the white buttons down here are for the high, middles, and lows of each voice that comes in.
Yeah.
So some voices are more trebly.
Yeah. So if you're hearing,
Bassy.
so 12K is not that high, but it's more sibilance. So kind of 12K is kind of the sibilance. And then the mid, you can change the frequency from 100 hertz all the way up to 8,000 hertz.
Okay.
So you can so generally what I'll do if I'm hearing something in the mid range that's bothering me that I want to get rid of, I'll turn it up carefully because you don't want to feed back.
Okay.
I'll turn it up and then I'll kind of sweep around till I find where that really offensive frequency is,
Okay.
and then turn it down.
All right. And what's that white button below that?
That's the frequency. That's where you choose what frequency
Okay.
from low to high.
Okay.
Yeah, so this goes to 100 to 8K. This is 12K, and then this is 80 hertz.
Okay.
So, which is pretty much useless on voices.
Voices. Okay.
Yeah, it's
All
because
right.
you expect you to mix other things as well as voices. If you're doing voices, for sure, always have the low cut engaged.
Press
So that's
down.
yeah. So it's they're all on right now,
Okay.
except for over
What is low
here.
cut?
Low cut. So that just below 100 hertz. It
That's where voices mostly sit.
yeah. It basically cuts the anything below 100 hertz.
Okay.
So it'll reduce plosive popping
Oh,
and
right. The talking
and
sounds.
stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because you don't
Alright.
really need that in anyone's
No.
vocals unless they're doing,
Beatboxing.
vocal percussion or
Yeah.
bass.
Yeah. Okay.
Bass singers, they might have something below 100 hertz,
Right.
but everyone
And
else,
nobody in our school.
yeah, exactly. So I would just always, music probably not.
Okay.
So if this was actual music,
Music line.
channels,
Yep.
I would leave it off because you want to hear the subs
Okay.
or hear the, bass frequencies.
Right.
But anything that's voices, I would leave it engaged.
Okay. That's good to know. Awesome.
And then the assignments down here.
Okay.
So the way this mixer works is you can't assign it directly to the main mix. You have to assign it to the subgroups.
Okay. So the subgroups are over
Subgroups
here.
are here. There's 4 subgroups,
Okay.
which then you have to assign to the main mix. So right now we've got it set up. So everything is assigned to sub 1 and 2.
Okay.
And then we've assigned sub 1 to left, sub 2 to right. So this is basically a stereo mix, kind of left and right.
And you want to use them at the same time, same
Yeah.
level. Yeah. move them at
Otherwise,
the
you'll
same
get a
time.
difference in the speakers on the
Right.
left and the right.
Okay.
Yeah, there's lots of ways you can do it. You could have 4 individual groups and they all just get assigned to both.
Okay.
But then you change that with panning and stuff over here, which gets really complicated. So
Right.
we won't worry about that.
Okay.
So you have to assign them
Assign
to get the
these
sound
guys.
out of the mains. You have to assign it to 1 and 2 or 3 and 4.
Okay.
Then you have to assign 1 and 2 or 3 and 4 to
left and right.
left and right.
Okay.
And then
And the
you'll get
main-
the volume out of here.
Okay.
So these have to be up, this has to be up, and these have to be up to get volume out of the main.
Okay. Is there a particular channel that is better for having those boom mics go into because of what it offers, or not really on this board?
I would say you can't, not really on this board. It has to be in 1 through 8 because it has to be an XLR
Has to be an
connection.
XLR. Okay.
And one thing for those, they're condenser mics. So the phantom power needs to be on.
Okay.
You want to be careful though that you've got the speakers turned off if you're plugging stuff in with phantom power turned on,
Okay.
because it'll cause big pops because
Okay.
there's actual power going through the
Through
mic
these
cables,
ones.
so
Okay.
it'll cause it to pop a lot.
All right.
But if you have condenser mics, which those choir mics are, then you have to have phantom power for them.
For sure. Okay.
Dynamic mics, so like these guys, any of the wireless and stuff, they don't need phantom power.
Okay. So that
But-
can be off, but we will have the
But
boom
if
mics.
if
so
you
we're
have the
gonna
boom
need that.
mics, then you
Okay.
need phantom power on.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is this business right here?
So this is overall EQ.
Okay.
So ranging from 63 hertz all the way up to 16,000.
So let's say I know nothing about any of those numbers.
Yeah.
What should it be set at?
This looks pretty good. I kind of adjusted it a little bit. So I took a little bit of because it was that really high-pitched feedback.
Okay.
I turned that down a little bit. Generally, you have a bit. You don't want it to be like a smiley face, but generally you do dip in the middle a bit,
Okay.
just because it gets a little bit tubby sounding in the mid-range.
Okay, and as the left is the low and the right
Yeah,
is the
low
high?
to high. Yeah.
Okay,
Across the whole, basically whole frequency spectrum.
okay,
So normally, not normally, but these units often come in 31 bands, so they're much wider.
okay.
And there's 31 different bands that you can
Oh, wow,
adjust.
so this is quite condensed.
Yeah, very condensed. So it's more just kind of an overall thing. You're not using it to really target frequencies that
Right.
are feeding back or something. It's more
Okay.
just to shape the overall sound.
Oh, okay. All right, good to know. Awesome.
And then another way you can, so if you're listening to music and you want to make the speakers sound better, then I would just play the music, and then one at a time I kind of raise these up
Okay.
to see what difference that made to the sound.
okay, yeah.
And then you can kind of pull it back, because then you can recognize what you're listening to,
Okay,
and then how that fits in.
right.
So that's how you can adjust that. If you don't really know what frequencies are what, the easiest way is just to hear exactly what it's doing, and then you can say, "Oh, that's offensive, so I'm going to pull that back a bit,"
Awesome.
or
Okay,
"Oh,
that
no,
sounds
that's
great.
okay, so I'm
Okay.
just going to leave that at 0."
Right. Okay.
Most of the time, you don't boost; you only cut.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, unless it's really. Yeah, most of the time I would just cut.
Okay.
Boosting, you're going to run into issues with feedback for
Right,
sure.
right, and we don't want that.
No.
Okay,
It's very rare that you would want to boost frequencies. You generally just want to cut them.
right. Okay, really neat.
And that goes for the channel EQ as well. You
Okay.
can sometimes, so say you're not finding your playback has enough bass, you could turn up the bass frequencies a little bit on your playback, your music channels. Or if say one of the mics is really muffled, then maybe you do want to put a little bit of high frequency in it, because it gives it a little bit more air sounding instead it doesn't sound so
Oh,
muffled.
right, right. Okay.
But generally we just cut with these as well. We
Don't add any
don't.
typically.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, so that's like more the upper sort of, middles, and the bass or the lower end, and that is for I forget the white one.
The white one is it's called a sweep, a mid sweep
Okay.
EQ. So this you can choose the frequency. So basically, this goes from 100 to 8.
Okay.
So this is 125 to 8 here. So basically, it covers that whole frequency band
Okay.
with the one knob. So you
One
can
knob, okay.
choose, and again, how you can do it easily is by boosting this a little bit and then kind of going and finding which frequency it is that's bothering you.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then you can cut it.
All right.
You just have to be really gentle with it, because if you go crank it
Interesting,
up,
interesting,
and it's a
okay.
frequency that's feeding back,
Right,
it's going
right.
to feed back way more.
Yeah.
So you just have to be really gentle with that when you're doing it.
All right.
But
Okay.
that's
That's awesome. This is definitely a lot of information,
Yeah.
and it'll be very helpful.
And one thing to be very careful with
Okay.
these mutes, it's very hard to tell if a channel is muted,
muted
or
or
not,
not. Yes,
there's
it
no
is.
light or anything.
Yeah, that's right. So you gotta watch
if
the
you're
level
not
of
getting
it.
sound, the first thing I would do is make sure
Make
it's
sure
not
it's
muted.
not the mute. Okay.
Yeah,
Good to know. Okay.
I think that's everything.
Okay, brilliant. Here we have the other mixer, and it's plugged in through the 2 1/4-inch main outs into the channel on this main board that has a left in and a right in. And I have one of the headsets set up to channel 1 right now, and this particular one needed quite a bit of gain to get any sound. So Chris suggested that we crank all the volumes on these receivers, so that we're working kind of with as much sound that can possibly come out of these receivers, and then adjust accordingly on our board. Did I miss anything?
Nope.
Okay, cool.